Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Tech Views Unplugged. I'm Andy Mann from CA Technologies. I'm here with my mate and colleague, the ever extraordinary George Watt. How you doing, George?
G'day, Andy.
Hey, mate. Let's do new and cool first. I know there's some cool stuff that I want to talk about. I'll give you first shot, though. What you got?
Well, Andy, would you consider a PC the size of your thumb cool?
Whoa, I would.
So Dell recently started shipping a thumb-sized PC dubbed Project Ophelia to its beta testers. Expects it'll be available to everybody within the next few months. Ophelia looks more or less like a USB drive. It could turn any screen or display with an HDMI port, into a PC, a gaming machine, or even a streaming media player, which is pretty cool. It runs Android as its operating system. It has both Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, and of course can access the internet just like any other PC. It's priced about $100, I think, in recognition of the pressure that smartphones and tablets are putting on the PC market. And Dell believes it's going to be the ideal thing for people who do most of the computing over the web. It's going to have to compete with technologies like Google's Chromecast media device, for instance, and a soon-to-be released really cool mobile computer or phone or computer that runs both Ubuntu and Android. And we'll put some links below the video in case you want to learn a little bit more. But it looks like we're soon going to be moving from the desktop to the pocket.
Wow, that is very cool, I have to say. I've seen some stuff about plugging phones in before. This is something entirely different, just a key. Hey, I've got some stuff from Black Hat. Now, we all know Black Hat, and I've never been because, quite frankly, I'm afraid that my phone will be hacked and everything else will be hacked. But there's some really interesting news about what else can be hacked. 7 billion SIM cards are in active use today, right? There was a presentation at Black Hat that says that most, if not all of these are hackable with just two texts. Can you imagine that? You don't even have to be at Black Hat to get hacked. You just have to have people send you two SMS messages. And the other thing that was revealed at Black Hat, this is really interesting, I think. The researchers at the University of Birmingham have found three ways to bypass immobilizer chips that a bunch of different auto manufacturers are using to fight vehicle theft. Now, Volkswagen specifically came back and got an injunction against delivering this paper. The judge reckoned that millions of Volkswagen vehicles were issued with this chip and would be vulnerable if this paper was presented. Porsches, Audis, Bentleys, Lamborghinis. This is interesting. The threat is still there, right? But apparently it's irresponsible to tell the people about it. I think it reinforces a little bit of what we've always said about the identity and the access side. But this is about Internet of Things, about the way that this is all opening up. This is very, very dangerous. This is going to be interesting to see how this plays out.
It looks like you better put a tinfoil hat on your Bentley and your Lamborghini.
Absolutely. Hey, let's move to news. I'll let you give first stab at this one too, George. You're batting 1,000. What you got in news?
All right, well, thank you. It's no surprise privacy's back in the news, of course, or still in the news, I guess. But last week, something really interesting happened. It involves a simultaneous arrival of two different news items. First, Neelie Kroes called for the creation of a European cloud network. She said that in the aftermath of the PRISM revelations, right, it's vital that Europe works to rebuild trust in cloud computing. And she said that in order to do that, the European Union would have to unwind the complex hairball of regulatory differences that we've spoken about before between the member nations. And she's announced a 20-member partnership that will take aim at the issue. Now, concerns over privacy in a story like that, that's not really new, right? And Ms. Kroes' response isn't really surprising either, I suppose. But what is surprising is that while that was going on, the Central Bank of the Netherlands approved the use of Amazon for financial
I
operations.
saw that.
Right? And so that's a stark contrast, right? So this includes all facets of financial operations, including websites, mobile apps, retail banking platforms, high performance computing, and even credit risk analysis. And this approval not only includes Amazon, but also third-party services that run on top of it, provided they meet all the cloud computing regulations that are already in place. So it looks like other financial institutions might soon join Spain's Bankinter and Italy's Unicredit on Amazon. And I think it's a huge win for cloud computing overall, and perhaps for consumer-driven technology in general.
Yeah, and I think that the win there for cloud computing, especially, is that it's not just any large company, it's actually banking. And it's in a country which is fairly solidly known for good privacy regulations, good rule of law, all of these sorts of things. This is actually really big news. I'll be interested to see how this develops.
Absolutely.
And when we're talking about cloud, the other thing that I saw actually was in SiliconANGLE. And it's all cloud all the time. We've just become tech views, and all of a sudden we're talking cloud again. But this was about cloud and the Internet of Things going hand in hand. So for me, it's actually more about Internet of Things. I'm really excited about the Internet of Things, about sensors and applications, the things that people are doing. I read the other day that, and this is coming from Cisco, there's a company in Europe that is putting sensors on cows, and they're connected to the internet, and the sensors tell them when they need to be medicated and milked and all. Let me just repeat this, George. There are internet sensors on cows. I love these sorts of stories. It's really interesting when you start to think about how much data is floating around in the cloud, how many of these sensors are going to be connected. Cloud connects all these sensors together, right? If you want to do the analysis, if you want to have that communication, it becomes even more powerful when it comes across the network, but even more so when you aggregate data. Can you imagine all the cows in the world, all connected to the internet, and we start to use big data analysis, we start to understand what's going on with that. This probably should have been in New and Cool, quite frankly, but it's a great story. I would encourage everyone to read the story. It's on SiliconANGLE, and just start to think about, what does this mean? The API economy, the big data, the rise of Internet of Things, and cloud computing all coming together. This is going to be big.
Yes, the rise of cow computing.
The rise of cow computing. I love it.
Well, since cloud seems to be thematic, we don't decide what gets traction, but it seems to be all cloud this week as well. I've been on a soapbox for quite a while though, about how cloud and other consumer style technologies could serve as a great equalizer for small and medium enterprises. And a recent Oxford economics study confirms that that's beginning to happen. The study was sponsored by SAP and surveyed small and medium enterprises with an annual turnover of between 20 million US and 750 million. And they found that these small and medium enterprises are growing globally, and they're using both international partnerships and technology, including technologies like business management software, data analytics, mobile, social, and cloud to do it. So this is sort of a broad story. In fact, almost 2/3 surveyed believe that technology actually helps them to achieve longevity and sustainable growth. And it's an interesting study and refers to some of the challenges as well for SMEs, such as creating a culture of innovation, something near and dear to you and I, of course, and skills shortages. Again, something that you've spoken about even recently. So it's quite interesting insight, and it looks like these technologies are starting to prove their worth. And more data, of course, on this in the links below if you want to follow up.
Yeah, absolutely. The ability for small and medium businesses especially to take advantage of these technologies is phenomenal. This comes back to the speed, the agility aspects of cloud. It's not just about being able to do it with OpEx instead of CapEx, which is big for SMBs as well. But it's about being able to do it at all, being able to do it with speed, and being able to get past the big companies they're competing with. This is great. I love this. Small and medium business is the engine of most economies today. Great to see.
And consumer-driven IT appears to be the great equalizer.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, George, we got to get on to our quick fire round. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to start my timer now. And the first question to you, George, is cloud computing, apparently, according to an article, has hit $100 billion in worth this year. Is this a big thing?
I think, we're just getting started, and a quarter of that, actually slightly more than a quarter, was Salesforce alone. So we're just getting started. Andy, I read a recent study that discovered 86% of Australian firms use cloud computing, and another one stating that cloud is business as usual now for Australian CIOs. Has Australia become the land up over?
See, this is really interesting because cloud is fundamentally, it's becoming an increasing part of the Australian compute fabric, even though the Australian federal government has been a little standoffish at times. Look, one other thing that I saw was cloud is apparently being smothered by CIO concerns, right? The top level concerns. This is in a new report. Is the CIO going to kill cloud?
Well, legacy complexity is still an issue. Cloud's come a long way, but there's still no big switch you can throw to turn it on for everything. So we'll have to deal with that for some time to come, I think. Andy, recently there have been public calls to embed Amazon AWS compatibility into the OpenStack project. What do you think about that?
Oh, look, George, and the buzzer just went off, but my phone's on silent. So this is, in fact, a buzzer question. This is really interesting. A bunch of open letters flying around the ecosystem from pundits and vendors and others. You know, I've always maintained that IT is fundamentally heterogeneous, and it's heterogeneous for good reasons. There are services, software, hardware that do specific things for really good reason. Specialization, it goes back to the building of the Model T. You know what? I think a lot of people need to spend some time doing something a little bit more useful, rather than just ranting on the internet about compatibility. Open is not always open. Deal with it. Hey, George, that's all we've got time for today. There is a shameless plug, though. We have a great new infographic out about cloud and the hurdles. We spoke about that. CIOs wondering about whether the hurdles are real. Have a look in the links below. Find out how you compare against your peers in this new infographic. This is a totally shameless plug. For myself, I'm Andy Van from CA Technologies, at least as far as I recall. I'm here with George Watt, also from CA Technologies. We'll see you next time on Tech Views Unplugged. Bye.
Take care.